Hey guys, it's Wednesday. Thought we'd do some cooking. Um, Welcome to Mr. Smith's Kitchen. I'm Brian. Give me 1 second because I'm not really professional and I got to turn down my laptop a little bit. I'm busy watching cheesy sci-fi movies today. That's what we like to do well, at least what I like to do. I like to watch cheesy sci-fi, old school horror, uh, just gumshoe from the 40s and 50s, detective movies, things like that. That's kind of how I pass my time when I'm not busy doing stuff around the house, cooking, trying new things, always learning something, always. Anyhow, I'm Brian. This is Mr. Smith's Kitchen. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Glad to have you. Glad you stopped by. Hope you stop by again. And real quick review on my channel. Tuesdays, we usually talk about whatever you want to talk about, if you suggest something, or whatever I want to talk about, current events, things like that. Wednesdays, we usually do some cooking, mostly main dishes, although tonight, not doing a main dish, but we're doing something that's amazing. And on Thursdays, we usually, we bake. Tomorrow we're making different spice blends. Maybe talk about some gardening. We throw some gardening in there, but anyhow. And if you're a subscriber or you just like to watch my channel, hit the subscribe button. Makes life so much easier. And the notification bell, if you want. That's kind of an option. I don't monetize. I just want you guys to have the information that I provide, and so on and so forth. So anyhow, tonight we're doing I've already made taco wraps. They're in the oven. And they're fried taco wraps. They're really kind of cute, made with corn tortillas, taco meat, cheese. But anyhow, tonight we're doing a side dish. We're doing Mexican rice. Now, I originally got this recipe off of Kent Rollins. That's the original recipe at KentRollins.com or his YouTube channel, Kent Rollins. It is an absolutely amazing Mexican rice, I think. I have changed it up a little bit based on a couple different things. A, our taste. B, availability of one of the items at any rate. So, this is a two-part gig. As always, I have everything written down on cards. One is the recipe for Mexican rice, but the Mexican rice also has a red sauce, which is right here. So we're going to start with the red sauce. Tools you will need. You will need a processor of some kind, whether it be a food processor or a blender. You will need one. The other thing you will need, a skillet and an oven. Right here, skillet, oven. Food processor, you probably can't see, but it's right there. And that's just to simply make the sauce. Now, if you have another way to grind all this up, awesome. All right, so the things you will need, and one thing I did already do is one tomato, Roma tomato, but if you can't get a Roma, which are pretty common in the grocery stores, use whatever tomato you got available. You'll also see there's a piece of garlic in there. You need 3 of those. And you need 1 to 2 serrano peppers, is the original recipe. I don't buy serranos because they're not something we use a lot. And they usually end up fouling out on me because unlike in bigger cities where you can buy peppers individually, here you have to buy packages of them. And there's like 8 or 9 of them in a package. I don't use them quick enough because they are a little spicier than a jalapeno. And even though they add a ton of flavor and I love them, not everybody else in the house does. So we compromise. So instead, I am using 2 jalapenos. And then you will need, this is just for the red sauce, 1 onion, roughly chopped. It doesn't have to be because we're putting it in a food processor, so it's going to get mixed up all together. Here is another change that I made based on availability. Once again, small town, kind of limited on things. It calls for ancho chilies. Now, ancho chilies are nothing more than dried poblanos, which I will have in the fall. I'm growing poblanos this year, and then I will just dry them out myself. So instead, I'm using what's called a New Mexico chili. They give off kind of the same flavor when they're dried, but they're not as big. So it calls for 1. I'm using 2 because they're not as big. At least that's my experience with the difference in the chilies. They have pretty much the same flavor. It's a little different, but not by much. And like I said, they're just not as big. So I'm using 2. Use what works for you and what's available for you and you like. It's okay to change it up. All I'm giving you is, much like I feel like Kent gave me with this recipe when I saw it on YouTube, is a foundation to build on. That's important. You want to make it for you and your family. That's the way it should be. Sorry, I got stuck. It's what works for you. Okay, so we got that. Last couple things you need. This is a really simple recipe. Is a half a teaspoon of cumin and a half a teaspoon of oregano. Now here's another thing I switched up. I used to use Italian oregano, which is okay. I mean, it still tastes good, but I now have Mexican oregano, which is amazing. It just gives it so much flavor. So they usually sell it in grocery stores. Unfortunately, our grocery store doesn't sell it, and I have to order it online. So, Mexican oregano, and then just 1/4 cup of water. So the first step, which I already did, was, you may not be able to see it real well on here. I'm going to go ahead and bring you down because we got to look at the blender anyhow, or the food processor. I charred those, okay? And how I charred them was I put a teaspoon or 2 of oil in the pan right there. I heated it up, and I blistered these bad boys. If you look, there's a better example there. And basically, I'm just cooking them whole. Now, the tomato you want to split in half so you get that good roasted kind of flavor in there all together. So all we're literally going to do to make this sauce is put our ingredients in the blender. Now, you don't have to, put the stems in. I left those on because it's easier to turn them in the pan that way. When you get that little bit of oil on them, it makes it hard sometimes to grab with the tongs. So I leave the stems on if I can, if they have stems, and that way I can turn it. All right, so we're going to dump all this in, seasonings, chilies, roasted tomatoes, and garlic. Make sure you get all that good juice in there too, because that's important. And our water. And then we're just going to blend this smooth. That's all. All right, good to go? Good to go. And we'll kick her on. Oh, maybe. I'll turn it on low so you can hear me. All right, I'm going to let this mix, and when I come back, we'll take a look at it and move on to the next steps. All right, so we got it blended up. Blended up, processed, whatever. It is, it'll be a little, it won't be super smooth. Hey, here, I'll show you real quick, just so you guys have an idea of what you're getting into. It's going to be like a chunky paste, about like that, and the longer you let it blend, obviously the smoother it'll be. We like ours a little chunky. And you'll have that mix in there. If you want depending on your processor, if you want your ancho chilies to be super fine, cut them up into little pieces before you put them into your processor, or if you don't have like a high-speed processor, cut them up first, and that'll help smooth them out. But like I said, we prefer a little chunky. All right, so as far as the rice itself goes, that's just one of the ingredients. You will need the following. Like I said, this recipe isn't hard. It does take a minute, though. There's a lot of cook time and weight involved, in my opinion. So while you're making this, you could honestly, after you get the process started, probably cook everything else, and it'll be done. All right, so the next things you will need. You will need 1 cup of white long grain rice. Make sure it's long grain. You don't want the quick stuff. You want, it's going to take a minute to cook rice. You're going to need 3 tablespoons, and get a good rice. Don't go cheap on it. 3 tablespoons of oil. You just use vegetable oil. What we're going to do with that is we're going to roast the rice. We're going to toast it in the pan before we actually start cooking. And the last 2 ingredients, a chicken powder, and 1 1/4 cups of water. Now, let's say you don't have a chicken powder, so to speak. Let me show you what the chicken powder looks like so you know. Give me 2 seconds. I'm going to walk over here to the cabinet and grab it. You can find this in any, just about any grocery store. It's this chicken powder right here, and it's just savory rich chicken powder. You may find it in the Asian aisle, but most of the time you can find this in the international aisle with the Asian stuff, cuisine stuff, the Mexican stuff. You can find this wherever they put the chicken bouillon. You'll find this. This stuff lasts forever. You don't even need one this big. Unless you make a lot of stuff with chicken broth, or chicken powder for that matter. It is good for broth also. We don't use it for broth because we make our own. And the only time I use this is when a recipe calls for it. And I'm here to tell you, we've had this big 2-pound container forever. Forever, ever. There is absolutely no expiration date on it. It's good for a lifetime. Highly recommend you have it in your backup kit for if you ever have to go into quarantine again, and or the world is going like it is, you may need a 2-pounder. But anyhow, that's all you have. So the first thing we need to do is, let me get you down here so we're looking at the pan. Is we're heating up our pan, we're getting it heated up, and we're going to put our oil in there. And what we're going to do is we're just going to toast the rice. What that does is it gives it a really neat flavor, but it also kind of helps it along. It'll coat the rice and help in the cooking process, and it will allow it to blend with the flavors that we're going to add to it versus trying to soak it all up. And it'll help get your rice nice and fluffy. At least that's our end goal, is a fluffy rice. And this is really incredibly easy. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to let this warm up, and then as soon as this is up to temp, we'll go ahead and get our rice in there. All right, give me just 1 second. All right, we got our oil up and moving. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's kind of waving at me. It's got a little bit of smoke going. And also, if you take a toothpick, something that's not coated, and stick it in there, you should start to see bubbles coming off of it. I don't know if you can see the bubbles coming off of it, but they're coming off of it. I just learned that trick a while back, which I think is kind of cool. If you got a spoon, a spatula that's wood, you can just stick it in there, and as long as it's not coated, it should bubble. And that bubbles, which is kind of cool. All right, so we got it up to toasting level. We're going to put our 1 cup of rice in there. And like I said, you want to use a good long grain rice. Even a good rice isn't expensive, and it's well worth it. You don't go cheap. And like I said, this recipe will not work with an instant rice. But it is well worth doing it. So what we're going to do is we're going to move this around. You don't want to let it sit very long. We're going to get it coated with that oil, and we're going to get them so they're nice and golden brown. You'll see them go from white to a nice golden brown. So I'm going to take these. It's going to take about 5 minutes on the high end. So when I come back, they'll be golden brown, and we'll move on to the next step. All right? Give me just 1 second. All right. So we got us going. We're golden brown. I don't know if you can see the difference on camera, but I can definitely see the difference here. They're nicely toasted. You don't want to burn them. It'll make everything taste horrible, but you want a nice brown in color. So the next thing we're going to do is basically just add our remaining ingredients. We're going to put the water in. We're going to put our sauce in that we made. We're going to put in our chicken powder, and we're going to give this a good mix. And what it's going to do is going to kill the heat in it, or the temperature of the pan, and bring it lower. So we're going to give this a good mix, get it mixed up real good, and then what we're going to do is we're going to bring it to a boil. Once it starts boiling, now these are kind of important and they're kind of precise directions. Even when I got him off of Kent's recipe, he was very insistent about these steps. like I said, but we're done. I mean, pretty much all we got left to do is literally cook it. So we got it all mixed together, you know, looking good. And as you can see, it's already starting to boil. So what we need to do now is, after it starts boiling like that, can you see it? Yep, you can see it. Good. Is we're going to turn this thing all the way down to the very lowest setting. I had it on medium to get everything going. We turned it down to the lowest setting. We're going to cover it, and we're not going to take this lid off again, and we're going to cook it for 10 minutes. All right, exactly 10 minutes. All right, and as soon as 10 minutes is up, we'll get her going. All right. All right, so our timer's about to go off. I did tell you wrong. This is why I write things down, directions on how to make things. You let it cook covered. Don't uncover it. Don't look at it. Don't just walk away from it for 20 minutes. All right? So you put it all together, bring it to a boil, turn it down to its lowest setting, let it go on its lowest setting for 20 minutes. Don't take the lid off of it. Don't do nothing. Just let it simmer and do its thing for 20 minutes. And then when it's done, which has got another minute here, it's got about 30 seconds. And once it's done, our next step is really easy. You're going to turn your stovetop off, and you're going to let it sit for 10 minutes. Yeah, 10 minutes. We're going to turn it off. We're going to remove it off of that heat. Now, if you have a gas oven that you're using, non-electric, just turn it off and let it sit there. But because I have a glass top and it's electric, that thing will still stay hot, and you don't want it on that heat. So if you have an electric stove like this one, or even if it's just got the electric burners on it, you're going to want to take it off of that burner, okay, and let it sit for 10 minutes. Do not take the lid off of it. You know, you don't want to look at it. You don't want to peek at it. Just leave the lid on it, you know, for 10 minutes. And set your timers. I mean, like this, I set the timer. It's got, 14 seconds left before it beeps. And then I will turn that off, and I will move it to the side. So that way it's off the burner and it's just sitting. That is the key, my understanding, to having a fluffy rice. Now, that being said, the few times I've made this, so we're turning it off, turning off the timer, turning off the burner, we're moving it to the side. The fluffiness part, I don't know if it's the rice that I use, but most of the time it turns out fluffy. Occasionally it does not. Why? I don't know. Haven't figured that out. Like I said in yesterday's video, this is a recipe I'm still working on. Even if it doesn't turn out light and fluffy, it still tastes really good. But I'm still working on the consistency and the fluffy part. I've made this recipe now about a half a dozen times, and like I said, I've come to the conclusion it might be the rice. Although I buy a good rice. We try not to go cheap on most things. It kind of relates back to the video I did a long time ago on you get what you pay for. It's kind of that way too. I mean, some things store-bought, buy what you can afford though. I don't ever let anybody knock you. But if you can afford to splurge a little, especially on rice, because even good rice isn't that expensive. All right, so anyhow, when I come back, it'll be 10 minutes, which I didn't set the timer. So we'll go ahead and set that timer now. And I'm going to let that sit with the lid on it, not touching it, not looking at it, not staring at it and wondering what it's doing. They're probably in there having a party right now, those little granules of rice. But I don't care. Not going to look. 10 minutes, we'll take the lid off, and we'll see how it turned out. All right? Back in 1 second. All right, we let it sit for 10 minutes, and now it's time to see what we got going on. Let's see if it turned out fluffy. Yeah, I know it turns out delicious. Like I said, we've made this a few times, and it's never been bad. So, next thing we want to do is bring the camera down so you can see what we're doing. As much as I know you enjoy looking at my pretty face, I just took the lid off of it, literally just now. And so now we're just going to fluff. And oh yeah, that turned out really good. So we get it mixed up here, and I'll bring it over to you. Oh, let me turn off the timer. So now, according to the directions to make this, timing is really everything. Yeah, and that's important. Yeah, so we got that going nice and good. And see how that turned out? That is beautiful. It's got a nice fluff to it. You can tell it's tender. So let me get something to put it in real quick. I'll get a plate to put it on because then I can add the rest of dinner to it. Get the lid out of the way. And the Ring cameras are talking to me. It's kind of funny. Get us I need a spoon. Oh, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll use a ladle. Why not? Let's live on the edge and be different. We'll use a ladle. Go ahead and get that on the side there. That way I don't have to dirty another dish because I'm about to eat some supper. All right. And we'll get a spoon out. And there we are right there. Out of the pan. Looking good. And like I said, I can tell you from having this previously, it's got a ton of flavor. But we'll give it a shot and see how it tastes. That's some amazing rice. Now, oh, that's good. I mean, that's just good. It's got a ton of flavor. I will say this though, in the red sauce that we put in it, even though it's not really red, but it's called red sauce. Choose the pepper you like. If you like a lot of heat, or you don't even have to put a pepper in it if you don't want to. I mean, not at all. Or you can even use a banana pepper or a milder pepper. You just want that flavor. Because using the jalapenos, because you roast it in the pan and you don't deseed it. I don't deseed mine, so it's got the seeds and all the oils in it. So it does have the full-blown heat of a jalapeno. So that you'll want to adjust. But you want to make it for you and your family like I make it for me and my family. I know all of us will eat that. We like that. But you can taste everything that's in there. You can taste the roasted garlic that was in the sauce. You can taste the tomatoes. You can taste in this case, New Mexico peppers. You can, you taste everything. And the rice is so fluffy and tender. It's good. It's an amazing side dish. All right. Well, I'm going to get the rest of dinner out of the oven. Like I said, well, here, I'll show you what we made real quick. They've been in here warming up. And these have a name to my understanding, but I'm not sure what. But it's essentially a taco that's wrapped up in a corn tortilla shell and then deep fried. Well, not deep, but it's just fried in about a ½ inch of oil. But I'm going to have that with a nice salad, which I can show you that also. What this meal does is it doesn't heat up your kitchen. The most you're doing is an oven. And right there's our salad. Got lots of healthy vegetables in it. Put a saran wrap over the top of it because I made it earlier today. That way I wouldn't have to fuss with it a whole lot. It's got some cucumbers, some radishes, carrots, celery, green bell pepper, red bell pepper, lettuce. The only thing it's missing that I would like to have is some spinach. And that's just because I didn't have any. But this is tonight's dinner all the same. You even got to see all the side dishes and the main course. And there's enough taco meat left over that if we're still hungry or for tomorrow, we can have tacos, or burritos or something like that. All right. Anyhow, try this rice recipe. Let me know what you think. Leave me a comment down below or find me on Facebook, Brian's Aquatics, and let me know what you think of it. Tell me if you like it. Be like, Brian, this is amazing. Tell me if it stinks. Like, dude, throw the recipe in the trash. I'm not going to because we like it, but I'll get it. I'll understand. If you make it and try something different, let me know. Let me know what you try. Everything I show you is, yes, you could eat it just like it is, but it's kind of like a base platform, something to build and make it your own with, just like I do. I take every recipe I have has come from someplace else. As much as I am a foodie, so to speak, I'm not that much of a foodie. I don't always create my own. But what I do like to do is take recipes I find, whether it's online, YouTube, newspaper, magazine, old cookbook from the 50s, and make it my own. And then that way I've got a base that I can share with you. And I will always tell you where I get the original recipe from and how I vary it. That way you can use it as a base and make it your own. Anyhow. All right, well, I'm going to go eat dinner before everything starts to get cold. So let me know. Either way, good or bad. Hunt me down, leave me a comment, whatever. Don't forget to subscribe. Maybe hit the like button, or the notification bell. It just seems like a lot of work to watch a video. All right, I love you. Tell somebody else you love them. It will make their day a whole lot better, I promise. All right, talk to you later. Bye.